So now we're going to learn about dynamics while playing. I have spoken to you before about dynamics when you're practicing your scales, and this is about trying to play it with different levels of loudness. But a composer will actually tell you exactly how loud he wants you to play a particular piece of music by using symbols, and these are using Italian terms again. So let's take a look now at dynamics. So what do we mean when we're talking about dynamics in music? Well, it's basically volume control. And we're going to be talking about static dynamics and changing dynamics. Now, static dynamic basically means the music is played at this volume until you're told otherwise. Whereas changing dynamics means the music is gradually changing to the desired level. So let's start with static dynamics. Well, in music, we use Italian words to describe the different dynamics, and there's 4 words that you need to learn. The first 2 are our basic volume controls. So piano, and I don't know if you remember this from the very start of the course, I did mention this was what piano meant, but it means quietly or softly. And forte means loud. So these are our 2 basic volume controls, quiet or loud, piano or forte. You also need to know mezzo, which means half or moderately, and you need to know issimo. Now, on the end of one of the other words, this means very. So these are the 4 words you're just going to have to memorise and remember. Piano for quietly, forte for loud, mezzo for half, and issimo for very. Now, there are 6 different volumes that we're interested in. Now the first is fortissimo, and this means very loud, because that's obviously forte, which means loud, and then issimo, which on the end means very. So fortissimo means very loud. And in music, this will be depicted with 2 little f's. The second is forte, which means loud, and this will be shown using an F. You then have mezzo forte, which means moderately loud or half loud. And this is an MF. And then you have mezzo piano, which means moderately quiet, and this will be MP. Then you have piano, which means quietly or softly, which is a P. And lastly, pianissimo, which means very quiet, and this will be 2 Ps. So these are the 6 volume controls that we are learning at this stage. Now you can actually elaborate on this ever so slightly with a very, very soft and a very, very loud. But for now, we're just going to concentrate on these 6. So these are our 6. And of course, I will give you a PDF with this lesson so you can print it out, put it near your piano, so you can always use it as a reference. So what does this mean on the piano? Because it's not as easy as you think getting 6 different volumes out of your keys. Well, pianos have weighted keys, and how this works is when you hit a note, a little hammer will hit the string inside the piano, and that's what makes the noise. If you hit the note very lightly, then the hammer within the piano hits the string very lightly and you get a quiet sound. Whereas if you hit the note with more force, the hammer will hit the string with more force and therefore the note will be louder. And your digital piano will replicate this. Now, not all keyboards have weighted keys, and if you have a more basic keyboard, then you won't be able to make the sound any louder or quieter when you hit it. If this is you, then I would suggest trying to find somebody that does have a piano or a keyboard with weighted keys, so you can give it a go. Or you might be able to find a piano in a shopping mall or supermarket or something like that, where you can just go sit at it and give it a go until you get the feel of it, because it is a bit of an art. It's something that takes some practice. So if I hit this G really quietly, if I start to press it a bit louder, I can actually get very loud. And I actually have quite a broad range of dynamics within that one note, going from quiet to loud. So if we take a look at this piece of sheet music, so we're doing 8 eighth notes in bar 1 and 8 eighth notes in bar 2. 4 beats. quietly with a P, piano, and then 4 beats loudly. So let's listen to what that sounds like. So as you can see, I can follow these dynamics relatively easily, going from quiet to loud, but it becomes a lot more difficult when we have to use 6 different volume controls. So let's take a look at that. So if we try going from very quiet to moderately quiet, to moderately loud, to loud, to very loud. It's a lot harder to do, but you could hear the large range of volume I had on that one note. Okay, so now your turn to try. We're going to do 8 eighth notes in each bar, starting with PP, which is very quiet. And this is very hard to do because if we go too hard too early, we won't be able to follow the music. If the music tells us to play loudly and we're pressing too loud and we've got nowhere to go, if the music then tells us to play very loudly, now we have nowhere to go, which means we're playing the music incorrectly. So you need to get used to this. You need to get used to how it feels and what the different levels of volume are on any keyboard or piano that you're playing. So let's make this a bit more difficult. Going from very quiet to very loud is a bit more gradual and easier to do with your finger. But what happens when the music is all over the place? So let's try this. We're going to start loud, we're then going to very loud, we're then going to half quiet to half loud, and then to quiet, and then to very quiet. Let's pause the video, give it a go yourself, and then come back and see what it should sound like. Do you see how hard that is? It's so hard to get it that I can't even really get it every time. This just takes practice, and it doesn't need to be perfect. Every piece you play will be interpreted by you. But as long as you understand it and you understand what you're trying to achieve, then you're halfway there. So of course I'll add some exercises to this lesson so you can practice this as well and practice your different volume levels. Okay, so changing dynamics, how is this different? Well, changing dynamics means that we are gradually going to change the volume of the piece of music. So we have 2 different volume controls in changing dynamics, and that's crescendo, which means gradually getting louder. And this is depicted by a little hairpin. So this symbol here that we call a hairpin because it looks like a hairpin, this means crescendo, which means the music is gradually getting louder. And then of course we'll have the opposite to this, which is decrescendo, which means gradually getting quieter. We use the hairpin symbol again, but we flipped it round the other way, so an open end to a close end. So if we had a piece of music that was going from quiet up to loud and back to quiet, and the composer wanted to do this gradually as opposed to it being quite a harsh change, he would pop these little hairpins in. So now we know that the first P to F means quiet to loud, but gradually getting louder, crescendo. And then the F to P, because it has the hairpin and with a closed hairpin at the end, this means it's gradually getting quieter, which is decrescendo. So on a piece of music, you might see this. So we start with the loud, we're moving to the quiet, forte to piano, but because of the hairpin, we know we need to do this gradually. So this is a little bit different. Before, when we went loud to quiet, we'd play the first 8 eighth notes loud and the second 8 eighth notes quiet, like this. So there's a very direct difference between the two. So this time, because of the hairpin, we're going to start loud, but gradually get quieter by the time we start bar 2. So you need to have reached your quiet destination by the start of bar 2, because this is what the music is telling you to do. The P is above the first note in bar 2, so we need to get to the quiet piano by the time we get there. So we've only got that one bar to go from loud to quiet, forte to piano. This time we're going to do a crescendo, so we're going from piano to forte. We're gradually getting louder. But we do have to get to our loud volume by the beginning of bar 2. So this time we're going from piano to forte to piano. So we're going quiet to loud to quiet. We need to get to our loud volume by the beginning of bar 2, but then we need to get back down to piano by the end. So let's give this a go. So it's just a gradual change in volume, but when your notes are different as well and you've got lots of other things to be looking at, this can become quite tricky, so you do need to practice it. So you'll need to practice your dynamics this week, and it actually is quite a lot harder than it looks. It's relatively easy to play loudly because we all just bang the keys, and pianos are quite loud anyway. But to play very quietly actually takes quite a lot of control, and you need more strength in your fingers to be able to use that control. So it does take practice. It is a skill learned. So I've created some exercise to add to your practice plan this week. Please do give them a go. And whenever you can, practice your dynamics in any song you're playing, especially with your scales, because they're really good ones for practicing loud and practicing quietly.